So let's take a look at a sample problem that we can use Python to write a program to solve. So we're going to start as usual with our name, some kind of date information, and what our program's going to do. So let's take a look at the problem here. So we need to write a program that allows the user to enter the length and width of a rectangular field in feet and the cost per foot of fencing. The program should output the total cost of fencing for the field. So what this program does is calculates fencing cost for a rectangular field in feet. So there's a brief description of what our program does. And before I actually start programming, I'm going to think about what I need. And, I can just make some notes down here. So the user is going to enter the length and width of a rectangular field in feet and the cost per foot of fencing. So the inputs I have are the length of the field in feet, and this is probably going to be a float data type. I want to make sure to have enough fencing, so if I use an integer and the user wants to enter, that it's 12.5 feet, it's going to completely discard that 6 inches of length, and that won't be included in the calculation. So I also have the width of the field in feet, and again I want this to be a float, and I'm also going to take in the cost per foot of fencing, and this is also going to be a float. We don't want to lose those cents. We'll underestimate how much the fencing is going to cost. So it looks like that is all of our outputs and our inputs, and so we need to look next at our outputs, and our output is going to be the total cost of fencing for the field. So my process is going to be that I need to calculate the amount of fencing. So I've got to calculate the total amount of fencing. And this is going to be, I need to know all the different lengths, the lengths of each side of the fence. So I'm basically calculating a perimeter here. So this is going to be a perimeter calculation, side plus side plus side plus side, for a rectangle. And then I need to calculate the total cost, which is going to be the cost per foot times the amount of fencing, which is basically what we're going to calculate in this first calculation. So I have two calculations that I need to do. I need to calculate the amount of fencing using a perimeter formula, and then once I have the total amount of fencing that is going to go around the field in feet, I can multiply that by the cost per foot, and then that's going to get me the total cost for the fence that then I'm going to be able to output. So I'm going to use all of my inputs. So to get the perimeter, this is going to be the length of the field plus the length of the field plus the width of the field plus the width of a field, if you think about how a rectangle is structured. And then I'm going to multiply this result here times my cost per foot of fencing input by the user, and then that total cost is what I'm going to output to the user. So let's start here. I've got my length is going to be equal to casting as a float, input, enter the length of the field. It's nice to put the colon there so that there's a little space before the user enters their number. I've also got the width, which is going to cast as a float, input. I'm going to ask my user to enter the width of the field, and then we'll call this cost per foot, and this is also going to be a float. I'm going to then enter the cost per foot for the fencing. Close up those parentheses. And so the other thing I might want to start out with is I might want to go back to the top before I have my length variable and just print to the user what this program does. You won't always need this, and of course with the replets you want to look very carefully for all of the instructions so that you don't confuse the automatic scoring system. So we're going to print welcome to the fence cost calculation program. And in addition, we should double check our prompts here to make sure we're giving the user all the instructions that they need. So we probably should say enter the length of the field in feet, enter the width of the field in feet, and enter the cost per foot for the fencing in dollars and cents. All right, now we've got our inputs. We need now to calculate our processes. So let's go ahead and check this to make sure we don't have any syntax errors. It's going to ask us to save it, so we need to give it a name. So we could call this fence calculation. If I can spell it, calculation. All right, we're allowed to misspell in programming as long as we do it consistently. All right, so it asks us for the length of the field in feet. I'm just going to give it some values, $4.15. And right now the program doesn't do anything except take the input. It doesn't actually do anything with that input. So we're going to go back, but we didn't get any syntax errors, so that's great. So we can put in some comments here to let us know what the program does. So this is our welcome and our inputs. Here we're going to have our calculations, and we're going to calculate our total fencing, and we're going to do length times 2 plus width times 2. We could have done length plus width would get us the exact same thing. Once we have the total fencing, we can calculate the total cost by multiplying total fencing, again we can misspell as long as we're consistent, times the cost per foot. All right. Once we've done our calculations, we're going to want to print what the user is looking for. We'll call this output, and really we're interested in the total cost of our fencing. So we can say the total cost of your fencing project is, and then we can either use the comma or we can concatenate and cast as a string our total cost. And let's see what we get with this. So we're going to run it. It wants it to be saved, and we're going to enter a length. Let's enter a width, and let's say our fencing is $1.15. So total cost of our fencing project is going to be $64.399999. If we want to pretty this up, we can go ahead and add a $sign there, so that looks nice. And before we cast it as a string, let's go ahead and round it to 2 decimal places, because this is really what we're used to seeing when we're looking at costs. So that'll just look prettier for our users. So let's get some lengths and some widths, and maybe this time it's $23.16, and there we go. The total cost of the fencing project would be $1,204.32.